Good afternoon. The Memphis Landmarks Commission is hereby called to order for its regularly scheduled meeting of, March 27th, 2025. My name is Cindy Tucker, and I'm the chair of the commission. Mr. Brett Ragsdale serves as the executive secretary of the commission. Mr. Ragsdale, may I get a roll call? Here.
Mr. Winter? Present. Mr. Gill? Here. Chair Tucker?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The Memphis Landmarks Commission and the local historic district provisions are established to ensure preservation of structures that are of historic value to Memphis. Our function is to preserve significant resources, enhance community pride, and foster civic beauty, and ensure compatibility within designated historic districts. The Commission is authorized to review projects and determine their appropriateness based on the design review guidelines. At this time, I would like to swear in the staff. You can remain seated. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last month's meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Mr. Secretary, please provide us a secretary's report if there is one this month, and then explain the procedure for this meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do not have a secretary's report, so I'll go into the procedure. I will introduce each case as listed on the agenda. Copies of the agenda are found on the right podium. For each case, staff of the Division of Planning and Development will give a presentation. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present his or her case. After the applicant's presentation, the commission will hear first from those speakers in support of the application, then from those speakers in opposition to the application, and the speakers will have 3 minutes each, and then finally the applicant will have 3 minutes to provide rebuttal. These times do not include time for questions from and answers to members of the commission. The chair may provide additional time, provided both sides are given an equal amount of additional time. All parties who wish to provide testimony to the commission will be sworn in by the chair. If a member of the audience wishes to provide testimony in support of or in opposition to a particular case on today's agenda, he or she will need to fill out speaker's cards for the record. Speaker's cards are available at the front podium. Once filled out, speaker's cards can be submitted to any DPD planner at the left podium. We do not need speaker's cards from the applicant since their names are already part of the record. After all parties have been heard, the commission will close the public hearing, make a motion, and then deliberate on the case. All motions made by this commission will be made in the affirmative. The bylaws governing the commission will require the affirmative vote of a majority of the attending members to approve an application. The commission may also vote to hold an application for a period of 1 month. Madam Chair, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all applicants have been notified of this hearing, and all notice requirements have been fulfilled.
Okay, thank you. At this point, the commission will establish a consent agenda. To establish the consent agenda, the secretary will call out each eligible case. If any member of the audience or the commission objects to a case being placed on the consent agenda, he or she should do so by a show of hands when the secretary reads the case. Once the consent agenda is established, the commission will vote on all cases placed on the agenda as a whole and will not hold individual public hearings on each case. Mr. Secretary, which items are on our agenda are to be placed on consent?
Item number 1, COA 2024-157, 1727 Euclid Avenue in the Roselle-Ansdale Historic District. Item number 8, COA 2025-023, 924 North Evergreen Street in the Valentine Evergreen Historic District. And item number 10, COA 2025-026, 1964 and 1966 Carr Avenue in the Central Gardens Historic District.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as established by the secretary?
So moved.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
I would like to remind the commission that by voting on the consent agenda, he or she affirms that he or she has read the staff report and is in full agreement with the conditions. Mr. Secretary, may I have a roll call?
Ms. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Winter?
Yes.
Ms. Tolbert?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. If any of you are here for those cases just listed on the consent agenda, you have been approved. If you do not need to, you don't need to remain at the meeting, but are welcome to stay for the remainder of the cases if you'd like. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. At this point, I would like to state that the minor COA applications as listed on the agenda have been reviewed and approved by the Commission. The Commission will now continue with the regular hearing of the major COA applications as listed on the agenda. Mr. Secretary, please call the first case of the regular agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The one that I do need to note, and I meant to mention earlier, we do have cases that are held and withdrawn on the agenda, so I just want to note those, that the cases that are holds are items number 2, 3, 6, and 7, so they will be on the April agenda, and then item number 5 has been withdrawn.
Okay, thank you.
So the first case that we will hear today is item number 4, COA 2024-124, 540 Hawthorne Street in the Evergreen Historic District.
Okay, is the applicant present? Is the applicant for Hawthorne present?
It appears they may not be, so we can roll it to the end and see if we can get in touch with them if they may be running late,
Okay.
and then go from there.
All right, well, we'll proceed to the next one.
Okay. And I do want, for the record, I want to note that Ms. Joyce Lynn Love has joined us. And the next case that we will hear is item number 9, COA 2025-025, 751 South Willette Street in the Central Gardens Historic District.
Okay, is the applicant present? Would you come to the the podium? Talking about baseball up in. Gotcha. Okay.
I said, which podium? I guess this one.
Is it, who's going to talk, or are all of y'all going to talk?
I guess all of us.
Okay. Anybody that needs to speak will be sworn in, so.
Oh, okay. Probably David.
Everybody raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, let's go from my left to right. Do you state your name and address, please?
My name is David Baker. I'm with Fisher and Arnold. The address for the record is 9180 Crestwind Hills Drive, Memphis.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm Danny Washburn, 1521 Central Avenue.
Okay.
Mike Lauderdale, 1521 Central Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Have you had a chance to read the staff report?
Yes.
Are you in agreement with the staff report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Did y'all like to see, we do have one opposition, but did you want to see the staff report before we? Okay, we're going to do it, and then if we have questions, we'll ask you a few things.
Okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Margot Payne with DPD. This is currently a minimal traditional style residence built in 1955. The home contributes to Central Gardens National Register District as part of a 2023 boundary increase, but it was not included in the original nomination or boundaries. The applicant's proposing to demolish the current home and build a new single-family home to be part of a larger planned development behind it. The planned development has not yet been acted on and is subject to the review and approval of the Land Use Control Board and the Memphis City Council. Here's the proposed floor plan for the first lot that's visible from Willette. Here are the proposed elevations. The top elevation shows what will be seen from the street. As I mentioned, the current structure was not included in the original Central Gardens Historic District from 1986 and was not listed as contributing on the 2006 MLC survey. Even though the National Register nomination was recently updated to include the property, there's been no neighborhood pushback for the demolition, so staff finds it's appropriate to demolish the structure in favor of more contextual development. Also, some background on the friendly amendment. The original recommendations included condition 1 that all driveways and walkways shall be paved with appropriate materials such as brick, stone, or smooth troweled finished concrete, and that's straight from the guidelines. But the applicants want to use asphalt to pave the entry drive and all interior paving. And even though this goes against the guidelines, since they prohibit asphalt, this could be considered more of a street since it's a private drive and less as a driveway, and it's appropriate and consistent with other planned developments in the neighborhood. So we're recommending approval with 10, now 9 conditions that address all the general standards for new construction, as well as a condition to reflect that the planned development is subject to further review and approval by the LUCB and City Council, as well as condition 9 that states all other lots within the planned development that are visible from the public right-of-way shall receive a COA as determined by DPD. So this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mark, I just want to understand, you said 9 conditions, but there's 10 listed on the staff report.
So there were originally 10 published,
Delete.
and our friendly amendment is to strike condition
Right.
1.
Okay, understood. Thank you for the clarification.
Questions? Did y'all want to make any statement?
No, we're good with the conditions.
Okay. All right, now we do have one that's in opposition. Mr. Ramage, would you come forward, please? Could you state your name and address?
Yes, Aaron Ramage,
Address?
1656 Carr Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Basically, as a concerned citizen and a local architect in the neighborhood, I wanted to express a few concerns about this development on the edge. Overall, I don't have many issues at all with it, and I'm glad that someone's actually doing it and developing it and saving those houses in that area. My concern, though, is along the streetscape. If you happen to look at the actual site plan that's in the page 4 in this middle, if you look, the existing house that they're demolishing is in line with the adjacent house. And if you look that same line, it's almost the same as the MLKW electrical building. If you look across the street, the house across the street on the other corner of York and Willett is basically approximately the same setback. If you look further down that page, if it was included, you would see that the homes, the 3 or 4 on the other side of the MLGW building, they're set back approximately the same amount. By them turning this house with its side to this main street, which is not really according to Central Gardens design guidelines, but in doing that, that becomes a 5-foot setback. So that house is pushed way forward and crowds the street in comparison to everything else. I think they're pulling that up now.
Can you point that?
As you can see, the houses down to where it says Google, basically on the other side of the street, they're all pretty much in the same plane as with the one above York and on the corner of York and Willett. And then across the street, the existing house, 2 houses, the one being demolished, plus you can see in this image the slab of their porch that they added, all kind of basically line up, or a certain distance from the street. To me, by putting that new house with its side to the Willett, it pushes it too close to the street and kind of starts ruining the streetscape.
Okay, I'm not reading this well.
Can you pull up the site plan, perhaps, of the house?
Sure.
And maybe that would. As you can see, there's a sidewalk, the street sidewalk, and then there's a brick retaining, well, it's like a low retaining wall, and then the house where the bedroom walls are. It looks or appears to be about 5 feet from the back of the sidewalk.
Okay.
And if you look, at the other ones, back on the other image, the houses are set back maybe 25, maybe 30 feet. So this one in particular is going to be pushed way forward.
Are you? Okay. Current house that will be torn down.
Margo, do you know if there are any setback conditions in the planned development?
The plan development, it does not exist yet.
Oh, it does not exist?
No,
yet.
so that's why there's some,
They're in plan,
yeah.
Got it, yeah.
except for the ones except for the ones that are already in play, the older houses that are there.
Yes.
So are you asking for it to be pushed back?
Pushed back to line up with the existing house that's right next door to it, that's going to be part of this planned development as well.
Well, especially if it's not in a planned development, they would have to comply with whatever existing setbacks are on this lot, right?
It seems like to me they should, yes.
Right.
I don't know.
So,
if
and
that's
obviously,
true.
that's not our purview on this board, but, you know, and I don't know what the setback is, but if it's too close, then that would be addressed by code enforcement, right?
Mr. Secretary?
It's in a PD.
If I'm reading the question correctly, so the planned development will come later, and it will have setbacks, it will have more detailed plans. What the commission decides, you know, you can make a determination on what you feel is appropriate. That would be included in a planned development. Of course, they could, you know, get some approval there that might need to come back to you guys. You know, we try to avoid those situations, but all of those setbacks for all of the lots would be in the planned development and set and approved by, you know, Land Use Control Board and City Council as well.
So if this is actually, what they're requesting is too close and outside of the,
Well, there's no planned development right now, so that's yet to be
So
determined.
let me ask my question slightly differently. If the commission approves this plan as is, and this is submitted for code review before the plan development is approved, if it does not comply with existing setbacks, it would not be allowed to be built.
Correct.
Okay.
so we have recommendations? I mean, is this, are we even,
No, I mean, what you decide would be valid. So if you decide something and they wanted something different, they would have to come back to you to request that.
That's your rebuttal from the applicant.
yeah. Okay, and before you sit down for a second, how many feet are you talking about? Is there a discrepancy?
Well,
In your
to me,
head.
to me, it's about 20 feet that needs to be pushed back, but I have not gone there and tried to measure it or anything. This is just about looking at Google and aerials.
All right, thanks. Thank you.
There are a few more minor issues. The location of the turnaround required by a planned development is actually in the front of this yard, this house. That's not per our guidelines. I would propose that these gates be pushed back to the back of this first house and the one across the street from it, so that that turn is actually out of sight. This house obscures that parking pad. And then too, it seems that the developer would not necessarily be easy to sell this house if its bedroom is 5 feet from Willette. But that's we don't care behind what's behind the windows and the walls, but the house, we would want to face the street.
Okay,
And this is me speaking as architect and concerned neighbor.
okay.
Also, it's like the level of drawings provided, very nice sketch, but it does not provide any kind of heights. Our guidelines say on the way you're supposed to submit this is it's supposed to be a drawing with dimensions, enough information that we can make educated approvals. This is not. If you look at what's been provided, it is a sketch form, no dimensions. You can't even really tell where the floor line is because it shows steps going up to the front door, but then the garage doors are the same level as that. So we don't have enough information to know if they're elevating the slab. It just seems like there needs to be more information provided. And according to our guidelines, it says what minimum level of information, and that has not been met.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry, there's a few more.
One more, you're almost up.
Okay.
Giving you extra.
They have kind of weird protruding dormers on this house, and that is not something historically that we have in our neighborhood. It seems very odd. It'd be nice to see it drawn in more detail so that you can actually figure out what they're doing. And also, we would like to see that the asphalt starts behind the gate instead of at the street.
Okay, and are there any questions for? Do you want to ask anything? Anything? Any questions?
Can we go back?
Because then we'll have rebuttal from.
Can we go back to the aerial?
On
view
Google
plan?
or the site plan?
The Google Earth one, but the one that's in the well, I guess either one. the picture of the aerial that's in the staff report is slightly different from this, and I just want to know which one is more current, this image or the one that's in the staff report? That
This
image
one,
up there.
Google is more current.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, with the applicant? Okay, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Sure. Again, my name is David Baker with Fisher and Arnold. Margaret, could I get you to pull up the site plan, please? In regards to the streetscape, in looking at our studies and layout and the house plan for this, we were looking at the residence just to the north, which faces central. And if you do the extension of that east line, there, the building line that is along Willette, that is where our proposed line building will be for lot 1 in that area, just north of our little turnaround area. And so that's why we were looking at trying to hold that streetscape and that facade, that appearance through there, so we were matching the building to the north of us.
Okay, do y'all have questions for?
In the site floor plan sketch, I see the existing city sidewalk and then the existing retaining wall. Then there's a space that it is not labeled, and then the exterior wall of the home where it says something window. It's pointing to a window. What is that?
Let me consult with our. It is a raised planter.
Raised planter.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, dummy window. Yes. Yeah. So where it says dummy window, it's a raised planter. Is that right? I said where it says dummy window on the site plan, that's a raised planter.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. So it would have some landscaping, or maybe not landscaping. It would have something there, plantings of some kind.
Yes, and with our application, we also included a landscape plan that has plantings in front of the turnaround, so that we would have a unified streetscape and to screen that as well.
And that's not in this packet, I don't believe. The landscape plan.
Okay.
No, we
They
don't
did
have
not.
that.
Okay. Well, we did develop one. Apologies that it did not get submitted in there, but it is, and it is in the application that we will be submitting to for the plan development. Yes.
Sure. Do you mind just describing what the landscaping is around that turnaround and in that raised planter?
Sure. One, there is an existing large oak tree on the south side, the other side of the drive, that has a canopy that kind of reaches out over that. And then we had some lower evergreen shrubs that along that, and then we had some taller upright, like Steed's upright holly, kind of along the piers for the gates, that hold the columns for the gates.
So some evergreens to try to screen that
And,
area.
and then we have a lower area in front of like where the key code thing is going to be a seasonal color. And then we also have lower ground cover plantings of Illyria oak in front of the shrubs. So it's not just a row of shrubs. We have mixed heights, colors, variations. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Have you done a streetscape along this plan? Because I am similar to the previous speaker. I am a little confused as to how this works on both sides. I mean, you gave us a sketch of the side with the new building plus a portion of the gate, which seems to face a different direction on your site plan than it does on this particular sketch plan. So how does that relate with the building on the opposite side to the point of it now? It seems like you're going as a side yard versus the front yard kind of condition for your particular proposed development.
We were also proposing to have a wrought iron or a iron type fence on the south side of the drive with a landscaping to kind of complement the north side. We did not want to do extensive landscaping to not damage the tree roots of the larger tree on the southern side. But yes, the brick columns, the fencing, and the plant material or complementary is what we're proposing on the south side. Yes. On the north side, sorry.
And Mr. Secretary, for one question I do have, is it possible for us to approve and kind of hold on other parts of it? Because I do think the home design as of now, with it not being as completely fleshed out, I'm not even sure if it could even be possible. Could that be placed in a separate category versus us being okay with the fact that they have that kind of gate happening at that almost what looks like the 20-foot setback, I assume 25-foot setback on that particular street?
So can we go to the site plan? So if we look at this, and just to clarify, I think, so yeah, that gate is, so Willette is to the right of this, and the elevations and the floor, the site plan actually are coordinated. So your question is, can you approve like the site plan and then request more for the house design? I think that we looked at that. That was one of the reasons we had the conditions that we have that are fairly detailed on some of those specifics. But yes, you can, the commission can decide really to approve or not approve anything at this time. So it's really however the commission decides to do. As staff, we did review it, looked at the current, the proposed design. That's where we came up with these conditions that would clarify some of the things that may not have been specifically detailed. And again, those things would also have to eventually be approved through Land Use Control Board and City Council. But what the commission decides is binding. So that would still be required if they didn't get that approved at Land Use Control Board or City Council.
Okay, are there any more questions for the applicant before we call for a vote and discussion? Because we can discuss, I think, this. Did you want to say anything else before we?
No, thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I'll close the public hearing of this case, and the commission will further discuss it. May I have a motion in the positive?
Here, motion to approve COA 2025-025-751 South Willette Street.
Is there a second? Thank you. And for those of you who don't know, we're going to talk loudly. You will hear everything that we're saying. Okay. So, who wants to go?
Yeah, so I'll just say the reason I asked about yeah, it's on. Sorry, I'll move it closer. The reason I asked about the site plan was, I think the last gentleman already said it. That very first house on the corner does seem to align with that one. So it's not like it's out of the blue if this one's a little closer. But the retaining wall that we were just talking about, it doesn't look like it's existing in the plan. So I'm just trying to.
She's got. Is that what you have?
Yes. So
and if I may, there was a COA that was approved for the property that faces Central not too long ago, and that's actually under construction. It's actually maybe built, but there's a new brick retaining wall and a new building there. And so that wooden fence there's a new.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that was the one thing I had was the alignment doesn't seem that off, but I'm not opposed to it moving closer to the street either.
Right. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think the houses, as the applicant mentioned, the houses at Willette and Central on both sides of the corner they're pushed up closer to the street than the other sides. Now, there is a side yard condition, to be fair, not the front. But even there is a similar situation that they're proposing on one of the houses, the southwest corner of Willette, and Central has a planting bed along the side yard where it butts the sidewalk, which is similar to what they're proposing at this space, so just the next lot over. Although, again, it's a side yard condition, not a front yard. So I agree with Ms. Tolbert.
I just want to say, I love this development. I think it adds density in a really creative way. So I applaud the applicant.
And also, it's also, does this work? Okay, so I think also it was a nice transition, right? Like you have on the part that's facing central, that home does have that side yard of about 5 feet and the sidewalk and all of that. And then now you're pulling that portion where the home, even though it's going to be interesting who will want that home, having the turn in front of it. I'm not going to lie, that's going to be a little interesting, but hey, you have a 2-car garage. So there needs to be a little bit more space. So I suppose that there's some wiggle room once the design of the home comes to fruition. And then it does set back with the actual landscaped and the gate. So now it's starting to relate to the rest of the home as it faces Willette. So in tune with Brown, yeah, that's a nice little transition, and it's a clever way to introduce higher density in a very exclusive neighborhood. So kudos.
Yeah, I also agree that the elevations do seem appropriate, although the gentleman that spoke in opposition brought up two additional good points that I wanted to reference and potentially discuss. There are no dimensions on the site or on the elevations, and so I think we should consider adding a condition that requires the applicant to comply with the roof and structure heights of the design guidelines. And then also, there was discussion about the asphalt. And I think the opposition brought up another good point about potentially asking for concrete at the front before the gate and asking for the asphalt transition to happen after the gate, which I think is an appropriate compromise. Kind of lets the neighborhood get that feel, but then lets the applicant take care of the private street accordingly. So I would propose those two conditions.
I can support that.
Yeah, same.
I just want to add that these applicants have been talking with Central Garden since before I was here. When I was there, they were talking, and they have worked hand in glove with us the entire way. And the neighborhood, the board is all very much in support of this project. It's taken what's kind of a dead space. That street is so wide there and unattractive and only a couple of houses, and it's really adding some densities, which supports 3.0, which, we've had our arguments about that in the neighborhood. And it's going to be beautiful houses, and there is demand for that there. And I think it looks good. I think, to Lauren's point, it aligns with the house face in Central, which makes it look and feel appropriate. And the landscaping kind of finishes it off and looks very nice. But I don't object to the extra conditions y'all want to add either.
Do you need any further discussion? Do we want to,
So I want to make sure, so we have a motion and a second, and there were a couple of conditions that I think Mr. Winter wanted to offer. So if we could get those clarified, and if there's no objection to those, then we can roll those into the vote. So do you have those that you want to mention?
Yes, so I would propose that we keep recommendation or condition number 1, but just add the word, so it'll say all driveways and walkways shall be paved with appropriate materials such as brick, stone, or smooth troweled finish concrete, and maybe just add except behind the gate. Would that be appropriate? Good with that? All right, and then add a condition that says the roof and structure heights shall comply with the Central Gardens design guidelines.
Okay.
do they have to come back to us for those, to look at the houses or anything that you see from the street?
Anything that can be seen from the street, subject to DPD's review. So, I think if there's a little piece of something that you can't, we would probably say, it's okay, but so right now it would only be things that might
Be visible.
be obvious, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the intent is just to make sure they are not measured drawings. I think that's a good point, and just to make sure that there's some teeth in there that DPD can enforce. If I think the intent is clear, it's supposed to be a nice house. I think they're going to comply, but just to make sure that's clear on the record.
Okay. Are y'all ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any objections to the two added or revised amendments? Okay.
No.
No.
Okay. Ready for vote?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Ms. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Ms. Love? Yes. Ms. Tolbert?
Yes.
Mr. Winter?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's the next applicant present.
Our next case is item number 11, COA 2025-027, 1009 Oakview Street in Roselle-Ansdale Historic District.
Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Okay, can you come up to the podium, please? Can you state your name and address?
Crystal Harris, 5960 Walsh Road, Millington, Tennessee, 38053.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have you seen the suggestions?
Yes.
Are you in agreement?
There was only one that I was not in agreement with, and it was the moving of the window. Traditionally, when this home was in the state this was in, that window to the left-hand side, that was, I don't know what it was in the inside. When I purchased it, it had been chopped up, and it wasn't through code as it should have been. So when I got it, I had to come and do a lot of stuff to make it up to code. So what we did on the inside is we added a half bath when you first enter the home to the left-hand side where that left window is. So that's why the window was moved over to the right, because that whole left area right there on the inside is a bathroom.
Okay, let us, would y'all like to see the report? Let us look at the report, and then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Okay, now you can stay up here, or sit down, or whatever you want.
Okay.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Chloe Christian with DPD. I'll be presenting this case. So this is a request for retroactive approval of exterior alterations to a property on 1009 Oakview Street. These are the previous conditions of the subject property. It's a Queen Anne style single-story dwelling. It originally had brick columns and brick railing. These are the current conditions of the property. And ultimately, staff finds that there are a few conditions that will be required in order to reach consistency with the design guidelines, specifically with the proportion of window openings and the distinction between the foundation height of the home. So we've come up with the following conditions. One, requiring the option to wrap existing columns with appropriate materials or replace with brick at a minimum of 8 inches. We've also suggested a balustrade or brick knee wall and having the option to relocate the existing window to be centered between the primary entrance and the edge of the porch, or install an additional window to the left in similar size. And here is a rendering of the secondary suggestion with the installation of a secondary window. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you go back to what it used to look like?
Sure.
And what was the condition when, is there another image of the condition it was probably when Ms. Harris purchased the property?
I can go to Street View and see if I can find something. So the only two images from Street View are from 2019 and then 2022. Here's the 2022 version.
So did this happen before the current applicant got this?
I would defer to applicant about that. I'm not sure.
So this is actually, I purchased it in 19. When I purchased the property, the porch was it was caving in. So it was not safe at all to even walk on. So I had the porch demolished. But the exterior is when I was in the process of changing out from the old siding to the new hardy board. So that's why those are on there, because I replaced all of the siding from the old asbestos to the hardy board siding.
Give us 1 second to ask her a couple of questions, and then we're going to come back. Did y'all have questions for staff first?
Quick question. Chloe, what was the intent of condition number 2 about the balustrade or the column, the wall between the columns?
So the intent was to bring it sort of closer to the original condition of the home, where there's some sort of enclosed like knee wall on the porch. So the intent was to sort of bring it back to that character.
Is that recommended or suggested by the design guidelines? Or is it just consistency with the existing and the neighbors?
Consistency with the existing. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Questions for Chloe before we move?
There was a comment in your report where it said that the railings, the brick with the concrete cap on it, was based on the attempt to create like the division or something. I was trying to read what that condition came from. Alterations, the B8, I guess, is where it is. Alterations maintain to raise foundation consistent, no visual distinction or contrast between the foundation and the body of the home, which it seems that what looks to be parched concrete would be that division. So the request for the railing is not really applicable to this particular area. It would seem like that would fall under something else, since the foundation is already separated from the actual base of the home. They're not the same color. There's a contrasting color. So is it like, I guess how you were saying, it's just a matter of trying to get it to look similar to what it is, even though it's not brick any longer?
Yes. So that aspect of the condition where it says to create a difference between the raised foundation and the body, just from like a design standpoint, I found that the installation of the knee wall would sort of increase the like difference between the foundation and the raised porch, if that makes sense. But if that's something that the commission doesn't feel should be added, I'm completely all right with that being removed.
I personally think it's more of a safety, because it does seem like that height is around 30 inches or above, and then a railing would be required anyway for a porch. So that would be something to check height-wise about that. But I think this particular, well, I mean, that's part of our discussion, so I'm not going to burden you with it right now.
I'll add, I'm sorry.
Yeah, did y'all have any?
I do have a question. Condition 1 about the columns, so it says to wrap existing columns with appropriate materials as fiber cement or wood. Is that because the columns that are in there now, is it because of the size of them, or because they look to be wood?
Yeah, so it's the size. I think the columns are 6 inches now, so it would be to have wider columns.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to add?
Yeah.
Recommended size for the.
Still on? Yep. Okay. You're off. You're good.
Did you have a recommended size for the column that you wanted them to wrap? I don't see
It's minimum 8 inches.
Okay.
I think is in the condition.
Oh, it does say it right there. I'm sorry.
Okay. Before we go back to her, did you want to?
Yeah, actually, referencing both the columns and the wall, I didn't catch it originally, but in the staff report, there is the historic survey from the Landmarks Commission, and it specifically says, on the main facade is a full-width bungalow-influenced porch with square brick columns and a closed brick railing with a concrete cap. So I think that definitely points to the significance of those items architecturally. So I definitely agree with staff's suggestion of the recommendations. And to Ms. Rainwater's question about the column width, 8 inches may be too small in some ways. Thinking about, and we just had that picture up of the original condition. They had the big brick square columns. That might be more substantial and in alignment with the original design. But maybe 8 inches minimum is sufficient.
Okay, all right, thank you. Go ahead.
So the reason why I actually chose those is because I actually own 4 properties on Oakview, because that street has a significant value to me, because it's where my great-grandmother actually lived. And I own a new build that's 4 doors down, and this is exactly the design that I did. It is a new build at 987 Oakview, and it was approved. It was a build from the ground up, and those are the exact same columns, color, and everything that was already approved. So that's the only reason why I went with those, thinking that I was going with the design of the street, because we don't have a wall railing on the newer house, and we do not have the brick columns. They are the 6-inch columns on the porch.
Okay, so when you started your renovation, because I see it's retroactive, you didn't apply with Landmarks to get permission to do this?
No, unfortunately, I had a contractor doing all of that for me, and he was just, he was incompetent. So I had to step in and come in, and that's why I started in 19. Same situation happened. So I'm out about a couple $100,000 from contractors not completing my project. So that's why you see so many years in between, because I was started, the contractor would get the first draw, never come back. So that's why it took so long for me to complete it.
Okay, thank you. Do you have something, Brad?
I just, I think it's the owner's responsibility to know.
Yes.
If you're in a landmarks district.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in support of the planner's staff recommendations and any additions that these wonderful architects would like to make. This one's a tough one. We saw this one a few weeks ago in the design session, and this was just a tough one to figure out how to make work.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question initially about the wall, I'm sorry to keep going back to this, but I just want to make sure it wasn't a burden, because I think you made some good points about your investments. But I do think the difference in this versus a new construction is that it was existing and it was contributing to the historic neighborhood. So to Mr. Gill's point, it is very tough to figure out how to balance those two things.
Yeah.
I do think some of the suggestions might actually, like, I do understand the shifting of the windows due to the interior layout having shifted. And if you weren't really cognizant of, hey, there's this balance there, then so be it. Because I think some of that is even of where the columns are being placed, how you're placing it makes sense when you're looking at the overall. But for me, I'm like, okay, you need to shift the columns out so they're actually falling underneath the corners of the porch, which is probably why if they were just a little wider, they would actually give you a little bit more vision of like that visual stability. And it seems like even before you had it, I could tell that the door was changed, the windows were changed, like they're just not in line with our typical style of this particular home, like even as a bungalow influence. So there was something that you came into that was already bastardized a while ago. You have like the doors were smaller, like you can tell from the stoop that's there. There at one time either had to been a double door or there was a larger door with the side lights. So we understand you're coming into something that's already been kind of modified. So for us now, we're just trying to make it to the line where it's actually, how do we say, a little contemporary appropriate that still gives lend to the items that are here, and it looks like you've maintained the roof line, the pitches, the way that slopes, but we're just trying to see if there's a way that we can put a little extra in there. And I think the spindliness of the columns are actually highlighting the unproportioned balance of these windows. Like to me, I'm like, ooh, that window's too big to be that close to that door. So could a narrower window have done that?
And then if you had wider columns, now the fact that there's this big blank space over on this side is no longer a highlight, you know?
Okay.
Shifting, if you look at the original column structure, your stairs aren't framed by columns. You know, you have a low rail that literally ends at one side of the stair, and your columns are on either ends, capping with one that kind of more so frames that picture window more so. So if there's a way that we can actually have that back, then you're no longer trying to have this column that's now in front of a window that's a little too large and too close. So if it's a matter of shifting and making a narrower window beside the door, now that that is placed because of the interior layout, got it, and a wider column kind of pattern, whether it's what would be some, like even a grouping of 3 or a grouping, like something that can kind of give you a little bit of base, some kind of framing. And I feel that that visual would actually help out along with that low rail. Oh, that's nice. With the low rail, that would help balance out, and then you won't have, it's literally just a matter of moving, shifting, and removing that one side column that literally blocks that visual straight into window. So trying to see it. It's like I can see it in my head. I may have to sketch it later, but if that's something like, does that make sense? And I suppose we'll talk about it amongst each other later.
Yes.
But these are some things that I'm thinking when I look at your property, because girl, I've seen it. I've seen your story, so.
Okay.
Yes.
It's ready to be done.
We have
with
one more
it.
question before we go to vote.
I just wanted to ask the applicant, you mentioned the floor plan layout was an issue with the window. What's going on inside the house that required you to put the siding over where the window is currently?
Where they want the window to be is a bathroom. It's a half bath. As soon as you come in the door, and I sent you a picture, Chloe, do you have it? I sent her a picture. When you first walk in the door to the left-hand side, immediate, as soon as you walk into the left-hand side, it is a, like a coat area, and then a mud room, actually, and then next, right there. See, that's where the current window is.
Okay.
If you go over any, it'll be in the bathroom.
Could a window be placed there that looks like a window from the front, but is sheetrocked on the inside, so that it gives the balance to the outside without affecting the floor plan? I've seen people do that in houses where they just didn't want to remove a window.
I put windows in bathrooms all the time, so I'm curious about the layout, because if it's behind a toilet, then it's like, I don't know if I want to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so I'm looking at the layout. Is it because I'm seeing the stub up over here, is the toilet in the corner, or is it off on the side right there?
The toilet is right there where the pole is coming out of the ground, the floor. And then the vanity is when you first walk into the right-hand side. It's a 24-inch there. So
it's like a narrow wall hung or something, or is it?
It'll be a half bathroom.
Trying to see. Like, is there a room to have? Because I mean, I and this isn't my good. I feel like that window's too big for that little space right beside, like that. Like I don't know, what size is that? Like a 2.6?
It's a nice size. It's a nice. We really could have did a whole bathroom in there, but we didn't because it's other too full. So it's a nice size half.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the window itself beside the door, like that width of that window.
You want to do it smaller? Are you talking about the standard size window here?
Yeah, whatever this window that we see right here. What size is that? Like, what's the width?
I'm not sure.
I think you told me it's 36 by 80.
Yeah, it's a standard.
It feels big, like that 3 foot. So I was like, man, a 2.6 probably would have been perfect right there, and that would have given you some room to breathe beside your door. And I don't know how that would fit in that bathroom just yet. I feel like I need to see a floor plan, dang it. But regardless, I think if we can get the column situation, it won't be as apparent.
Okay, he has one more question.
No.
You're good?
Yeah, I'll ask mine about the window location.
Okay, all right.
Just sorry about that.
Okay. All right, are we ready? Okay, we're going to call for a vote.
Okay.
All right. Okay. May I have a motion in the positive for discussion purposes?
Sure. Motion to approve COA 2025-027-1009 Oakview Street.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to talk.
Okay.
Okay.
So I agree with what Joyce was saying. It's the window next to the door. I agree with like the columns and all that stuff. It's the alignment that really gets me, because it's, if you look back at the original picture, the old door was more or less the head of the window and the head of the door were more so aligned. And so to your point, yes, if it's a smaller window, it gets it off of that door some, because the zoomed in picture of the trim and the trim, it gets a little clunky. But changing it to a smaller size and then maybe raising it so that it's maybe aligned with the top of the door would make it feel a little bit better to me. Yeah.
Could you fake that with trim that was painted white to match that of the door?
Yeah, but then you'd get you'd have a larger piece of trim at the top compared to the rest of the white, and I think it might make it look a little bit more off. But I don't know, that's kind of what bothers me more than the window. And I understand the window being in the original place or putting another window over there, but also to her point, I've had houses with windows in the bathroom also. And granted, the seal height is probably a little higher than what that window is showing or what the rendering was showing, but I don't think it's that big of a deal to put a window in the bathroom.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think after all the discussion we had, I agree with all of the recommendations that staff proposed, as difficult as they might be.
Second window would really make a difference.
I agree.
And the columns. Any more discussion?
Actually, it's like I want to sketch. I really want to sketch. I'm actually okay with, same way I noticed the height difference, the trim difference that did bug me, and I'm trying to see why it shifted that way, because it looks like the picture windows at an aligned height in itself, and that maybe that was just a mistake on contractor's part. Like you said, you had to come back and try to fix a lot of stuff from that. And it does feel like that needs to be lifted and shifted in a way over. I'm not as, I am curious as to what the solution for the columns are in order to see just how much that second window either needs to be put in, or if that single window shifted over would do the trick, because now you've created a central element with the door and the window together. Like that's, and I feel it needs to start with you figuring out how that column is going to be laid so that we can see that balance. And then I feel the idea of either the second window or the single window shifting over makes more sense for you, or even if it's a matter of you having a narrower window, and that gives that same kind of vibes. Like I strongly feel that in my heart that I feel like we need to figure out that column element first before you go in, because you're gonna have to fix the columns anyway. Like that's a given, and you're okay with that portion. It's about that window. So I really want to make sure that works for you, because I have seen your work. I know you are very in tune to her community, so it's not like so I got that. So I really want to see if we can figure that out. I don't know if that's a matter of it being an administrative approval, or something that can get shot back to Cindy after you have the columns in a legit form, so that she can A-OK it, or Brett can A-OK it, because I trust Brett. Trust Brett with my life.
So, to see how that balances, but if we can work out something for your columns first and then come back and see what we can do with the window afterward, I think that would benefit you.
Okay,
that
so what's your
house.
recommendations overall for the columns?
Excuse me,
We're not gonna, we're talking
y'all,
to each
this is
other
what I
right
think.
now.
I'm sorry. I'm not.
unless y'all wanted, if y'all did want to open
We
it
have to
back
open it
up, you
back up to
could
her.
do
What
that.
I just
To ask
said
her
is
that
to
much
y'all.
question. We're talking to each other, and then we can come back. Okay.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree. Like, I think having a second window there or not can depend on what happens with the columns. Like, I'm okay with if a second window doesn't come if the rest of it gets resolved, basically is what I was trying to say. But that window height and that door height it bothers me a little.
It's inconsistent.
A little more than not having a second window. So
It's inconsistent. It's, design-wise, it needs a lot more interest, and the columns might do it for it, and it just needs.
It needs help, but we can help. We can help it.
So let me ask a question that I suspect is coming. Where would you suggest that she start with the columns?
I start with the fact that that column that's on the left side is not necessary. I get it that it's framing, it's
Left
the
side of the
attempt.
door.
Yeah,
Right.
because the columns on the corners will need to extend onto holding that corner for actual, like that's for support period. That's your load pressure regardless. So that should come in, and I think that thickness needs to be not 8 inches. I do think it needs to be somewhere closer to like a foot minimum too. And I think the brick columns previously were 2, so I think a foot, and even if it's width-wise, it doesn't have to be deep. It's the way that it's received at that width. I think that would be a good place to start. And then instead of, you see where it's where the first column is, I think that is supposed to be shifted in a bit more where it's actually framing that picture window side.
Yeah.
And then you have the same kind of width along that on.
Well, so it's almost like if you look back at the original.
Back to the original alignment, yeah.
So just on the original, the columns are much larger, but then these two frame that window is what Joseph was saying, and it also helps.
Bring the original up.
Yeah. It also helps you understand that gable, and then you can also tell the difference. This column, so there is no column on the left side of the door, like Joseph was saying, and then the column on the far left and on the far right, they have a much more appropriate relationship dimensionally to the soffit.
I think the picture window is a lot more appropriate than the size of that previous window was.
Yeah. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Plus the little wall.
And the wall, because I do feel like
Needs
this.
that
I feel
little
like you're going to need a rail anyway because the height is at 30 or above. So that's like it's going to have to happen regardless.
So remove the 2 posts in the middle.
Excuse me, sorry, I just want to make sure.
One moment.
We're still talking to each other. I'm sorry. I know it's confusing.
We keep directing it to you with Elizabeth. Yes.
Look this way.
And Ms. Christian, could you pull up the current conditions we have? I just want to bring that back to make sure everybody's aware that a couple of things. We did have the option of adding the window or moving the current window. So just want to make that clear. The other is that we do have a requirement for the railing. So that is already part of the conditions. So just to kind of refresh what the current conditions that we have.
So the current condition is just an option to wrap the columns. It's not a condition.
With appropriate material.
The option is the materials. So no, it's a requirement to wrap the columns to a minimum of 8 inches.
And I'd also like to point out there's already built-in option with the window too that we've been discussing.
That's right. So we were trying to come up with some options that would allow some flexibility in the final solution.
It doesn't have anything about the wall.
Yes, it does.
It does. What am I missing?
Knit wood or wrought iron balustrade or brick knee wall shall be in 2.
Okay.
Yeah, number 2.
Yeah, 2.
I think we're just getting a little bit more clarity as to how that could be implemented onto this project. And I do think that the columns probably, no, I'm pretty sure it needs to either be larger than 8 inches or a combination of columns need to be.
Well, should we change that to 1'4" or 1 foot? Or just let it be and have some discretion?
I think it'll be part of the discussion because I think when Crystal, Ms. Harris comes back with the options, and I think it does need to be some width there. More substantial. That we all know what we're looking for there, so.
Would the option to change that 8 inches to 12 inches minimum?
I think it does need to be 12 inches minimum.
Okay. So that's
Width,
without objection.
not necessarily like a square, but the width.
It's just an important design feature of that.
For something that's very minimal version of a bungalow style, yeah.
It's just much more interesting.
No objection.
And the trims, I mean, she's got the trim set. Like the trim is looks like 6 inch to 8 inch trim.
Yeah.
But I'm agreeing that all the head heights should align.
Yeah. For condition number 3, it says, yes, it's an option, but it says to relocate the window to be centered. Like, would we adjust that wording since we're potentially talking about not allowing it to be all the way centered in the thing, or would we?
It's going to be dictated by those columns.
Do you want to change it to be centered or to be resized?
Well, it says centered between the primary entrance, so it doesn't necessarily.
Right. Well,
But it may
so
not
says
be
centered
centered
between
if
the
you have a
primary entrance and
thicker.
the edge of the porch, which would put it right in the middle of that wall, which means half of it would be in the half bathroom and half of it would be on the other side.
Like, that's not gonna
And so,
work.
Since we were discussing that a potential option
Adjustment, shifting of the window, or
shift it slightly, or I don't know, I'm just asking if that needs to be reworded in any way, and if we don't think so, then that's fine, but just based on the discussion that we've had so far.
You just take out the word centered.
Yeah, okay.
should be relocated or shifted over.
To be relocated, the option to relocate the existing window
to be between
the primary entrance and the edge of the porch. Right. And we could review that.
Yep.
And anything else, or should this come back to staff, us?
I'm okay with it going back to for administrative approval versus it having to come before us and let them have the final determination. Yeah. But I do think that you have appropriately contrasted the foundation from the base, but we're going to add that because of safety. It's what needs to happen.
Okay, so anything else? Are we good? Okay. I think now we're going to vote. You want to restate?
So I have right now that we're going to, on condition number 1, we're going to change the 8 inches to 12 inches. And on condition number 3, we're going to strike the word centered. And those are the two that I have, changes that I have right now. So with no objection to those? Okay. Ready for a vote? All right. Ms. Tolbert?
Yes.
Ms. Love?
Yes.
Ms. Rainwater?
Yes.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Mr. Winter?
Yes.
Chair Tucker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you. You will, and you get with staff and they'll explain everything if you.
Okay, and we may have the applicant here for item number 4 that we held, COA 2024-124, 540 Hawthorne Street in the Evergreen Historic District.
Okay, could you come forward, please? Okay. Are y'all both going to speak at some point or just one?
Sorry,
Are you both?
repeat your question?
Are you both going to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you state your name and address? Your name and address, please.
Okay. Name is Siddharth Das, 450 Tuscumbia Cove East, Collierville, Tennessee.
Okay, and could you state your name and address?
My name is Moizuddin Khaja, and I live at 1751 Cypress Springs Lane, Collierville, but we are here for the house 450.
Okay, I need to swear you in. Put your hand up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have you seen the recommendations and read the recommendation of staff?
Yes.
Okay, are you in agreement with that?
Just with the first point, we are looking for an option, like.
Okay, do y'all want to see staff report for? Let us look at the staff report. She's going to show us that, and then we'll talk to you in a second. Okay.
Chloe Christian again, presenting this case, COA 2024-124. The location is 540 Hawthorne Street in the Evergreen Historic District, and this is a retroactive approval of a replacement of a wrought iron front and side yard fence with a 6-foot metal fence with a gate, as well as a wood fence to the rear. Here are the previous conditions of the property. You can see that there was a fence there prior. And these are the current conditions of the property. The applicant has installed a 6-foot metal fence like right along the sidewalk. Here's a view of the gate that was installed. And as far as if the project meets the guidelines, in summary, the proposal currently partially meets the guidelines. Evergreen district guidelines mostly discourage front yard fencing. However, there is particular consideration given to properties on corner lots and properties on busy streets where the commission is encouraged to consider the uniqueness of those particular properties. However, either way, open fencing is encouraged, and the proposal does provide open fencing. So we've recommended the following conditions. Predominantly, condition number 1 gives the applicant the option to reduce the height of the fence to a maximum 4 feet in height, or move the fence 2 feet back from its original location behind the sidewalk. And the gate height, per these conditions, shall be allowed to remain as is. And for any further exterior alterations, including window replacement, we've added the condition that a COA will be required. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions for staff?
Do we know what the height of the original railing was?
It's hard to say. I don't know exactly how tall, but it looks like it can't be more than 4 feet, just based on these images.
Excuse me. So the original fence was 5 feet, and actually we did not know about the.
She's got, you're on.
If you'll give us a second, we're talking to the staff.
Yeah,
We'll come back.
get you in a second.
Would the fence be allowed to stay at 6 feet behind the gate where it's fencing the backyard?
Per the current conditions, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, all right. Okay,
So.
you go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. Just to give you the background, the reason for us to do the fence, the house was, when we purchased, it was kind of abandoned house. And then what happened was we had a burglary incident happen to the house. And we are new to Memphis. We are not from Memphis as such. So we didn't know. And immediately we contact a contractor. And he came up and, we showed him the house next door, the fence exactly. We said, can we do the same fence? He did the same fence, similar height, which is next door to our property. And we didn't know anything about that until, we got the notice from the city that we need to take permits and stuff like that. Then immediately we applied as soon as we got the notice. So the reason for us to go 1 feet above was that was the normal size that is available right now. And the height we are okay with it because we had a burglary who jumped into the house and, had stayed in. We had to call cops and, have him vacate the house. So we don't want any similar situation happen. So we wanted to make sure the property is secured, ma'am.
Do you know, as she said, how high the fence that your contractor or you took out, how high that was?
5 feet, ma'am.
That one was 5 feet?
Yes, ma'am. It's still there. What we did was on one of ours and neighbor's house, we used the existing fence, to that side between us. And if you can see, I think we should have some picture of it. If
the old fence was moved to the other side.
Other side.
It was not thrown away. Yeah.
Okay.
Which neighbor are you saying has a similar fence?
It's on the same Hawthorne Road.
Same Hawthorne Road, a couple of houses.
2 or 3 houses on the right side. I have some pictures.
On Hawthorne, not on...
on Hawthorne, I have some pictures of that, but I do not remember the house number.
Okay, yeah.
But I have the pictures.
Nothing shows up on Street View that looks similar to that. So.
Do you have any picture of next door?
I'll check the street view for that.
And theirs could have been grandfathered, I don't know.
Yeah, not that it's right or wrong. I was just curious the reference point. Because there doesn't appear to be, and I think that's, of course, we're looking at images that are probably from 2022 is when it was captured. But even more to the point, if this is probably a more historically accurate context, what we're seeing.
Is that a wooden one across the street? That was look higher. No.
That one's also shorter.
Shorter,
Yeah, but there doesn't appear to be any other similar fences.
So the one going south behind you?
He has the pictures as well.
I can show that to Miss Chloe. So
Or that one across the streets?
Yeah.
Across the street?
Yeah, it's across the street and a couple of houses, And
if I can show you can I?
No, that's that's on Hawthorne across the street from them, on the opposite side of the street, correct? That's on the west side, right? Those two are the west side, I think. Because if you go, let's see. There's it. Now you're going south on Hawthorne. This would be Parkway.
Right.
And then on that side would be going west. Correct?
Yeah.
That's the red height. Not working? I guess I think what he's saying is maybe one of these guys. Actually,
Okay.
These are sides.
Okay.
I'm going to slip out. Yeah, you good.
Yeah, we've got it.
All right. I'll tell Brent.
Yeah.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, neighborhood lady. What do you think?
That's on that side.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Back. Yeah, that's what I would do. You say that. Because I would buffer it with bushes.
Okay.
And that's gonna be easier because 6 foot isn't, it's 6 foot now? Yeah. To move it back and not cut it. We're sitting here coughing, we shouldn't be doing that. Let's bring,
That's what he copied.
okay. Okay. And where is that? That's not on Hawthorne, is it?
This is on Hawthorne. Yeah, little bit maybe further down.
Okay.
I was trying to find that.
Let's go on for a second,
Oh, here.
because Ms. Rainwater has something to say. Further,
It's a couple blocks.
it's the other, it's not on Hawthorne,
It is on Hawthorne.
but it's further.
Yeah, it looks like it's the 5800 block.
Okay, Commissioner?
40.
I think that if the fence were moved back 2 feet behind the landscaping that exists, you could keep the 6 feet because the transparency is there. but it would take away it just crowds the sidewalk too much.
And it would be decidedly more secure to
Right.
have landscaping on it.
It
Because
would.
even at 6 feet, that's not a whole lot. I'm 5 feet tall. I can jump over a 6-footer.
I think it would add the security as well, yeah.
To me, the security would be because it would be back behind where that was.
Yeah.
Looks like to me.
I agree with the staff recommendation, like, just move it back. You can use the same fence, you don't have to replace it, just move it back to 2 feet.
Okay.
And can we make sure we're getting on the mic also?
Right, she was on, her voice is soft.
Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Her ring was on.
Okay.
Okay,
I think we're good.
we'll talk about it in a second.
Yeah, maybe just for the record, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I was just saying that I agree with the staff recommendation. I know it says either or, but it seems if just moving it back to 2 feet seems to be the simplest resolution, and you can keep the same fence, you don't have to change the height of it.
And buffer it with
You know, you
landscape.
just have to get rid of some of it as the perimeter gets smaller. So.
Yeah.
Right. And like she was saying, it looked like Shelley was saying, it looks like there's already some landscaping beds and stuff there. So if you just shift it to the side, to behind that, and put some more landscaping around the front, I think it'll be the best solution.
Agreed.
It's also worth noting that's similar to the location of the original fence on the property.
Right. Did y'all have, because we were talking, do you have some other things you would like to comment on?
No, meaning the contractor we had is no longer, meaning we were depending on them, on the contractor, but he's gone. He did the work and he took the money and he left. Now, to move it all the way, it will be altogether kind of new project for us.
Right.
That's what we were thinking. If there is a
Well, unfortunately, it becomes the owner's responsibility if they didn't come to us first before they did it.
agree to it. Now we know, so
Yeah,
going forward, we're gonna make sure.
I know it's a difficult thing, but and the contractor, if they've done stuff in the area, they should know, but that's not necessarily so.
Yeah.
Additionally, if the contractor had gotten a permit, this would have come up, right?
Yeah.
And fences are supposed to be permitted.
Do we know if they did get a permit?
They did not. They didn't get a permit.
They did not. Okay, so did you want to say anything else?
Yeah, we thought that because we are just replacing the similar wrought iron fence with another fence, we didn't know that we still need a permit and come to it.
Yeah, and
We are on
they
our-
should have though. And
Especially since you actually shifted the new fence forward. If you look at the pictures, the fences seemed like you had some grass spacing.
The reason for that, we talked to him, the contractor, about it. We didn't ask him to move. They said there is a concrete, like a stone, like it was like so many times redone. It's a 100-year-old house, so he can't dig it in there. So the easier solution, what he found, he didn't even took our permission or anything like that. What he found was the front was easier for him to dig and do the work.
I bet it was easier for him. Sorry about that. I hate it. I hate it for that. Like.
I know. Okay.
Yeah, the 2-foot setback seems to be your best to put it back in line with the original fencing, which was there as was approved at earlier time. And I don't know if you want us to help you write some bad reviews for said contractor. I will totally do this for you. Like, give me the name. I got you. See, we can shame him, shame him a little bit into doing the right thing. So, like, we do appreciate knowing who the bad characters are that aren't being careful with.
And doing a lot to, because actually it's such a significant house. It's been there for such a long time too. I mean, obviously it's a long time, but it's been. It's a lovely house. It in its day, and it's still distinct.
Much appreciate you bringing it back.
Clearing
to
it
life.
out and doing
We're not
everything.
planning to demolish it. We want to bring it back because the house looks closer to our, basically we both work for Methodist. So it's closer to our work, and we said, it's an area, locality is good. That's what we are new to. Someone showed us the house. We said, okay, let us go ahead and do it.
I know. Okay, so shall we call for a motion? So what we're going to do now, unless you have something else that you want to say to us, we're going to call for a motion, and then we're going to talk to each other and then vote. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
Move to approve COA 2024-124-540 Hawthorne Street.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to talk for a few minutes, and you can hear everything that we'll be saying.
I think that what we've suggested is probably the most affordable. It'll look good. The fence is still a little taller than we would like it to be, but it is a busy corner, which their guidelines accept. And I think it would look great that way.
Yeah,
like
and the material
where it
they
was.
chose is so transparent, like it almost disappears, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a good assessment, Ms. Rainwater.
I want the name so I can shame. Like, I really want it.
Same.
Can we shame these people?
We don't know, they didn't file a permit.
They have to stay good and neutral. All right, but
So are we ready to vote on it? Okay.
Yes, I think so.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Rainwater,
Yes.
Mr. Winter,
Yes.
Ms. Tolbert,
Yes.
Ms. Love, and Chair Tucker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much, and for your patience and everything.
and thank you for getting this house back in order. Really,
I know.
I hate this. I hate this. I so want to just pick at this person who did this.
I know.
Because you picked a very great material. You picked a very terrific application to it. You didn't try to be